Hey, this is Derrik Jordan. Welcome to the World Fusion Show, where we bring you the leading innovators in world fusion music. And today, my guest is Frank London. Frank is the founder of the Klezmatics and plays trumpet and is a composer. Welcome, Frank London, to the World Fusion Show.
Hi, Derrik. It's so great to be here on the show and to join with all the amazing artists who you have interviewed before. I feel truly honored.
Well, you're in good company, of course, and it's great to have you join them. I'm so glad to have you and to represent Klezmer, which we've never had on the World Fusion Show. So tell me a little bit about your background, growing up, how you got into trumpet, how you got into music, where it all started for you.
I started out by teaching myself piano at home, just plunking around. Back when I was in elementary school, public school, they had music education for everyone. I was given an instrument. I said, let me play trumpet. I went through school band programs. I thought I would go to college and do something like become a lawyer or something. I went to Brown University, and I was only, of course, doing music there. And in fact, at Brown University in the 1970s, I was blessed to meet a great jazz improviser named Brother Ah, who taught a course called Sound Awareness. And, I was learning all about music. And I said, I can't be here trying to do something else. So I left college. I went to Boston. I ended up at New England Conservatory. And the rest is just details, and that's what we're going to get into on the show, because I feel like I'm perfect. I am so perfectly at home with your world fusion representing Klezmer, because Klezmer, for me, I never learned it in and of itself, but only as one of many musics that I was encountering at the same time. African music, Haitian music, salsa music, classical music, avant-garde jazz. I encountered them all at the same time. And for me, in every one of these musics, I have been from the very beginning, 40 years ago, simultaneously learning each tradition on its own terms and putting the things that I've learned in one tradition together with the things I've learned together with the other tradition. And for me, the separation between, say, world music in a traditional form and world music in a fusion form, to use these words which I disagree with, there is the only difference is knowing what the parameters are. And when you do something in a traditional way, you have to stick to certain parameters. And when you do it in a fusion way, the world's your oyster. You can do whatever you feel.
It is. Now, I want to get into your first video, which is Klezmatics in this really cool rooftop concert where you're doing some straight up Klezmer. But tell us briefly about the origins of Klezmer.
Klezmer is the instrumental music of the East European Jews, who are called Ashkenazi Jews, who had been exiled at the destruction of the Second Temple over 2,000 years ago, who were wandering and kicked out of various places. And one part of them ended up in the area that is now called Northern Germany, called Ashkenaz. And they developed the language Yiddish there. And so then these Jews became Yiddish speaking Jews. They then got kicked out of Germany and went further east. And in Eastern Europe, they developed their own very unique culture, East European Jewish culture, and their language is Yiddish, they meaning my ancestors. The language is Yiddish, the instrumental music is Klezmer, and the vocal musics include such forms as Hasidic nigunim, as cantorial music, which we call chazonos, and Yiddish folk songs. And all these musics are interrelated.
I guess. Now, I want to go to this video because it really shows the real thing, I think, what you guys are doing. Do you want to say something quickly about that?
Absolutely. This is Frank London's Klezmer Brass All-Stars, which is a group that I've had for about 15 years. And this is a group that's dedicated. Actually, this group was founded. We actually were making a fake lore, fake definition of history in our thing. We called ourselves Die Schickere Kapelle, the Drunken Orchestra. And we strive for ecstasy at every moment, joyous ecstasy. And I think you'll get a sense of that in this rooftop concert, which we recorded in the height of the pandemic in New York City as an alternative to a live festival in Krakow. They broadcast this. It was during the Black Lives Matters protests. We were under curfew. There were protests in the street. And here's the music we played.
All right, let's get ecstatic.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3,
All right, we are back with Frank London and just had a wonderful experience watching him and his group play on the rooftops of Manhattan. Fantastic stuff, Frank. Now, I want to go to our next videos, and this next one is, we're going to see two videos together. The first is from a piece called Ghetto Songs, and the second is a video called Garden of Eros. Would you introduce them, please?
One of the main things I've done during this pandemic year is create new CD recordings. And these are my two latest releases. Ghetto Songs came out of the 500th anniversary commemoration of the first ghetto, the place that has been where the word ghetto comes from, the Venice Ghetto. And I have a new concert and a new band called Ghetto Songs. It's music from all the ghettos of the world. And this clip will feature the amazing singer Sveta Kundish. And then we're going to go to something very different, from very acoustic to very electric, a collaboration I did with poet Adina Karasik called Salome, Woman of Valor. And it's her poetry and my music. And you'll hear the amazing percussion virtuoso Deep Singh and Shai Bechara on keyboards with a very new music composition.
Let's go to the video and watch these two wonderful videos. Very different and very interesting.
Hot uns nacket bloß, verjuckt fin in sehr Haus, in finster Nisch, vertrieben in Bagleit, mein Kind, bagleit in seinem Upgrund in der Welt. In Sturm Vogelwind hat ins bagleit, mein Kind, bagleit in seinem Upgrund. Fin der Welt.
All right, we are back with Frank London. And that was a trippy video, man. I'm telling you, that was wild stuff. And some very out there trumpet, too, on that, I thought. Now, we're going to go to another video. And I want, Frank, I want you to talk about it. This is a complete departure from anything we've seen. Nothing to do, in my mind, with Klezmer. It's called 1001 Voices. And it's really a choral work. So can you tell us a little bit about how you composed this and what this is about?
So the piece we're about to hear is the anthem that comes at the end of what you wouldn't know from this, a 40-minute long symphony with full orchestra, plus tabla player, erhu player, entire chorus, soloist, and actor, and a full video with text by Judith Sloan and video by Warren Lehrer. And the piece itself is a real world music fusion, but the ending anthem really goes back to the music that's my roots and my heart, which is kind of American pop and American folk music. And that's really where I came from before I learned anything about klezmer or world music or anything. And what happened was this piece that we're about to see is a pandemic video. Everyone's in their little boxes. And it's a reduction for just piano of the entire symphonic ending. And it's kind of like Beethoven's Ninth in that you bring on the big choir for this last ending piece. And the text is gorgeous. It's Judith's rewriting of the poem on the Statue of Liberty. And this was written during the big Trump era. And it's really our statement of inclusivity for everyone and for immigrants and for all peoples, native peoples, indigenous peoples, and all people. And it's called 1001 Voices, a symphony for a new America.
It's really quite lovely. I'd love to go to the video right now. Let's do that.
Here, everybody comes inside to my table, even if they were at war with each other somewhere else.
we are back with the amazing Frank London, who is quite the eclectic composer. And as you could hear from that last choral piece, now we're going to move on and do another Klezmer piece, another video. But Frank, I just wanted to ask you, share with us your philosophy of music, your philosophy of life, if you want to, other projects that you're working on right now.
Okay. Philosophy of music and philosophy of life are actually very intertwined. And everything ultimately is about listening. Listening to people, listening to music, listening to sounds, listening to yourself, just listening and trying to understand. And that's something that I got originally from Brother Ah 40 years ago, 45 years ago at this point, and it has never left me, that it's all about deeply listening to others. And we've all had mentors who try to teach us this. And when you listen and then you create, anything can happen. Anything, you can go anywhere. And it's all about, the other part of my philosophy is I just love to start with an idea and then see how the idea plays itself out musically. And that's the fun of it. So the next piece we're going to hear comes from the Klezmatics. The Klezmatics, we've been together over 35 years. And from the very beginning, even before we established our musical identity, we had one guiding principle, which still is very evident in the piece we're about to play. And it's that Yiddish music, Klezmer music and Yiddish music in America by the 1970s or so had become very kitschy, it was corny and it was nostalgic. And it really wasn't something that had the vitality and the realness of all the great musics we love, whether it's a Charles Ives symphony or Milford Graves improvising. It was more like watching Liberace on a TV show. And we love Liberace, but that's another story. And the Klezmer said, we're not going to do nostalgia. We're not going to do kitsch. We're going to do things that mean something to us. And sometimes that doesn't mean we're going to be serious and not have any fun. We're going to have lots of fun, but we're going to have fun in a way we believe in. So what you're about to see, this song is the title track from our previous CD called Apikorsim, which means heretics. And the song is called that. And what this is an ode to people who both believe in tradition and yet want to rebel against it at the same time. And the words are so much fun. They were written by Yuri Vednyapin, a great Yiddish writer. The melody is my adaptation of a famous Klezmer tune that's recorded by the great Klezmer clarinetist Dave Taras, and yet has ties to Greek music from the same era. So the world is always intertwined. And there you have it, the philosophy: make a difference, try to make the world a better place, have fun, make good music, listen to each other. Thank you, Derrik Jordan.
Thank you, Frank London. And I have to say, I agree with you. This video is hilarious, and the words are really great. Anyway, let's go to the video.
Kennst du mir mein Teilräsel, schöne, kleine, süße, feine Räsel, Mann? Der Zelf in weite Länder, meistens für mich frei. Der Zel mein Teilräsel, schöne, kleine, süße, feine Räsel, Mann. Der Zelf in Land, wie jeder eine singt und lacht. Wie listige Apikus und tanzen in Aro. Listige Apikus und trachten nicht für Gott. Listige Apikus nehmen sich Karim. Listige Apikus singen mit Abrim. Nicht sich, kifft sich in die Meiler, in die Backen, dreht sich, utemt ein das Glück. Liebt sich, spielt sich, in die Häuser, in die Gassen, klärt sich, flecht sich, redet sich wie ein Smick. Listige Apikus sorgen nicht für den Struf. Listige Apikus haben nicht kein Ruf. Listige Apikus schweigen nicht kein Gal. Listige Apikus seinen sich nicht Zusammen wollen wir weg in Land von Glück. Genießen wollen wir für neue, freie Wäule, frische Tage nett. In Kicken wollen wir schon keinmal nicht zurück. Listige Abikos und tanzen in Aro. Listige Abikos und trafen nicht schwimmen Gott. Listige Abikos und nehmen sich Karim. Listige Abikos und singen mit Abrim. Und nicht Meure, schreckt sie gut nicht von Stamm rechet. Eichel zeugt den besten Wein. So die Teure machen's heute Finner Schaben auf Aramisch, Griechisch und Latein. Listige Abikosen heben nicht die Fäust. Listige Abikosen haben nicht kein Kreuz. Listige Abikosen dürfen nicht kein Geld. Listige Abikosen haben die Welt.
Hey, we are back with Frank London. And Frank, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the World Fusion Show today. It's just been great to have you. And I wanted to know if you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with our audience.
Well, thank you. My final thoughts, of course, are thank you very much for having me. And as I said at the beginning of the show, it is so great to be in this milieu of so many amazing creative artists, including yourself. I'm so sad that you and I didn't get the chance to actually play together if we were in the same studio, but that'll give us something to look forward to in the future.
That's right.
But I just want to say that just as a closing statement, all music in the entire world is a fusion. Nothing comes from, which doesn't mean everything's the same. Thank God, everything is different. Doesn't mean that something isn't unique to a certain people or a certain time or place. We always give respects to the creators of every music that we're involved with in every way. But one has to always acknowledge that everything is a fusion of other things because people are like that. This is what humans do. We listen to each other. We react to each other. And I could look at every music that you play and that I play and say, yes, Beethoven used Czech folk songs mixed with this and that. You know, everything comes together. It's all part of how the world works. And that's what makes things so interesting.
And beautiful, I think.
And beautiful.
It's the sharing that really enriches us all. And Frank, I just want to thank you. Frank London, I want to thank you so much again for being with us and joining us today, sharing your great music and your eclectic creativity with our audience.
Thank you so much, Derrik.
All right, this is Derrik Jordan, and thank you so much for joining us today on the World Fusion Show. It's just been great, and I think we had a fun time with Frank, and we got lots more amazing shows coming up, so please stay tuned. Tell your friends, follow us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, and, share online with everyone so we can keep this going. And I want to thank our wonderful sponsors, the Mackenzie Family Charitable Trust, Dean's Beans, Jeff Green, Nancy Feinberg, and Ron Dans for their generous support. And remember, as we always say, think globally, listen locally, and support independent music.